Intersection Magazine Podcast.
Welcome to Intersection Magazine Podcast. This is the last week in the year of 2024. And in this episode, I really wanted to explore certain aspects of leadership as portrayed or explored or talked about by media, especially film and television series. I've written before about Billions. I've also written before about a series called Succession. They're critically acclaimed pieces of work done by some brilliant people who have explored what it means to lead and to transfer power and to deal with change and many issues of that nature. But this particular episode is going to be a combination of a section of the second season, I suppose, the second season and the last episode of that season, the season finale for Seasons, or rather for Succession, which I think you'll appreciate. If you've been watching the series or if you're new to it, I'd recommend that you watch it. So this is really going to be a discussion of some of the ideas that I think have played out in this season finale. Thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for engaging with us through this year, for contributing to our numbers and our effectiveness. I hope that you've been learning something about leadership, about innovation, about technology, about management, about all sorts of ideas that we've been discussing. Like I've said before, we really do appreciate you. Thank you. I'll give you a little bit of context without exposing or releasing too much information about what these episodes have been about. Some of you may not have watched these, so I don't want to ruin the excitement for you, but it's really about media. Some people have actually thought about Succession as a portrayal of the Murdoch family, the media mogul from Australia, and the challenges he has faced in deciding or choosing an heir to his empire. That's Australian, of course, the UK, quite a number of stations that he runs, papers, newspapers, and television stations. If you look at other stories, for example, like that of Tata in India, which I covered in, I think, last month's Intersection magazine, you will notice that they've been facing some challenges as well in terms of deciding who steps into the shoes of Ratan Tata, who recently passed away. Some have actually wrote that he had preferred to have his grandson step into his shoes. But as things stand right now, the company has lost quite a lot of revenue, and this is really a succession battle. Now, in the magazine, we have some collaborations that we've been talking about. I featured the people that are behind Founders Freedom from Kenya, and we discussed succession, the complexities of creating a board, choosing members for that board, and standards and structures that have to be established to be effective and to manage transitions. So it's turning out that this is really an important subject, so I hope that you will focus or get some time to interact with some of these groups that I recommend. Founders Freedom is based in Kenya. You can find them on LinkedIn for their services and for their expertise. The people that are currently in leadership, they are friends of mine, but they're also experienced in leadership and accounting and finance and in those sectors. So coming back to Succession, you have a group of children. One who is not a very successful politician is standing for office. You have another, the youngest, who's really phlegmatic. He's sarcastic through and through. He's master of the one-liner. He comes up with all sorts of funny interjections when people make comments. He comes across as a spoiled rich kid, but he's also has his intelligence, as you will see in different episodes of the series, especially season 2. Then you have another son who is ruthless, just as his father is, but his father disagrees. He is stronger on the financial side, and you will see him at several points in the show challenging his father's leadership and trying to face off with him. Then you have a daughter who is seeking some sort of approval from her father, but at the same time is shying away from leadership. But she also is courting old friendships and trying to get into the political space and the media space, combining those two parts into some kind of work that she does for the company, for the big media company that Mr. Logan runs. Logan, the father of all this, is the CEO of Royco, which is a company that's at the center of Succession series. Then you have other characters such as the lawyer, faithful lady, and others in the management space who kind of circle around Mr. Logan. You have his nephew, son of his brother, Mr. Logan's brother, who incidentally comes across as quite a dummy, but he will prove to be a valuable resource in the series in terms of his contribution. So you have all these characters coming in and out. One of, I suppose, the daughter's husband is an interesting character, very probably a class above all of them in terms of his rudeness and his entitledness, but he also fears the father, as everybody in the series does. But that won't be for too long. Now, the interesting relationships that are established during the series, and those who are learning from watching what's going on, one of the best that you'll find is, of course, the nephew, as he navigates these complex relationships that he has to walk through, of course, as well, whether his loyalty lies in Logan, his uncle, or his father, who has a substantial amount of wealth on his own. So you're watching all these characters play in and out, come in and out, their father using them for his own means, wanting to lead, and the son, the more experienced son, challenging his father after his father begins to deal with an illness, which is where the show starts, really. It starts off when the father starts demonstrating some kind of mental illness or some physical illness, and they're beginning to prepare for his departure. And then he comes back all of a sudden. Then he changes his plans in terms of who he wants to succeed him. So all of this is playing out. Everyone's trying to think in terms of the interests of the massive company that the father runs. The daughter, the son, everyone's a contender in terms of the top position. So you're watching all these interactions take place. You're seeing the relationships that are related to the media empire. You're watching takeovers. You're watching all sorts of strategies about takeovers and percentage stakes and all those kinds of things. These are also interesting ideas that you can learn from if you're new to the business, or if you're new to finance and you want to get a masterclass in terms of how takeovers or mergers happen, or how acquisitions happen, and all sorts of other different major terms in the financial space and in the media space. You will also notice some of the conversations that they're having in terms of whether to go off and to focus on old media of newspapers and print magazines, or to embrace the internet and all on technology. You're also seeing conversations about media influence in parliament, or in that case, the presidency. You have a candidate who's standing for the presidency, but who's completely opposed to Royco and the Logans. So you see a lot of that as well. But I think the interesting thing that this episode wants to focus on is the relationship between the promising son and his father. There's an episode in which he goes after his father and attempts to oust him, which he fails at miserably, but then he tries again, and this time he's about to become successful, and then a tragedy takes place, and his father takes advantage of this tragedy to manipulate his son. And then you're watching as this endless back and forth takes place between the father and the son, the son just completely taking these emotional, traumatic blows from his father. And it's what the Americans call cringe. It's something that makes your toes curl when you hear someone say something or food described. It's like these emotional abuse issues between the father and the son are so palpable. And at some points, you even see the children themselves beginning to express or beginning to act like their father around the underlings that are working under the company. So you see a crescendo of emotion building up, and the son seeming to be ready to take the final blow from the father, until the scene which we're going to play. And after this conversation, it's a scene in which one of the son, the father has been approached by his major backer. And this is unusual because all the time you see Logan as a character that's in charge. He's calling the shots, but he gets a phone call from a key funder, and he's wanting to evade this phone call. And this key funder says, we're thinking about making some changes, and you've been dealing with challenges in the media, so we think that you should be the one to leave. And Mr. Logan withholds this information from his family, and then approaches his family and says, maybe I should be the one to leave. And everybody says, no, you shouldn't. So they're sitting on a table and they start discussing who should go. And it's amazing how quickly each of them starts defending themselves, and how the ship begins to lose its stability as everyone's kind of throwing the other under the bus. Then in one of these scenes, a decision is made to use one of the sons as a sacrifice, and there's an interesting conversation between Mr. Logan and his son, where he gives him a story about the South Americans, the Aztecs, I suppose, and how they'd once in a while sacrifice a son or a child in order to bring back the sun. I suppose in those days, or it happens these days too, where you had shorter days and longer nights. So they believed that the sun was angry with them, so they needed to sacrifice a son. So here Mr. Logan, casually talk about how the son is going to have to take the fall for certain discrepancies and certain ills that took place in the earlier years of the company. And the son comes up to the father and says, do you think I have what it takes to lead? Do you think I have what it takes to be the CEO? And the father says, not really, you need to be a killer. And so, the son walks away just sad, and, they see the father, looking triumphant as the son gets ready to take yet another blow, so this is the background under which the next scene takes place. So I will make the video available because I've managed to trim it, but just listen to this piece of audio as he prepares to make his speech and to become the fall guy for the company.
Good morning. I have an announcement to make about wrongdoing at Waystar Royco in advance of the upcoming shareholder meeting. I have been asked to explain my own role in the managing of illegality at the firm and associated cover-ups. And it has been suggested I would be a suitable figure to absorb the anger and concern. But the truth is that my father is a malignant presence, a bully and a liar, and he was fully personally aware of these events for many years and made efforts to hide and cover up. He had a twisted sense of loyalty to bad actors like Lester McClintock, and disregard for the safety of migrant workers, non-union and union workers, and for vulnerable performers and guests. My father keeps a watchful eye over every inch of his whole empire, and the notion that he would have allowed millions of dollars in settlements and compensation to be paid without his explicit approval is utterly fanciful. I have with me today copies of records that show his personal sign-off. How much those of us who executed his wishes bear responsibility is for another day, but I think this is the day his reign ends. I'll be providing the documents and can answer any questions you may have in the coming days. Thank you very much.
You're going to get your victim to me fries. Your father don't know that he was getting it today.
Now, several ideas stand out as you watch this scene or as you watch this take place or you hear the son speak. There are times, I suppose, when this is done quite a lot in television and in storytelling, where the master of an apprentice have some kind of relationship which in many ways looks like it's very one-sided. The master almost seems cruel and mean. But at the end, it seems for us who are watching this back and forth take place, you end up realizing that the master is really training or raising up his apprentice through all these dark times and trying to teach him how to lead. So later on, you're able to appreciate all the negative things, all the abuse, all the back and forth, although, of course, you wonder if that leadership style is really necessary, but you almost appreciate the pain that the son has to go through to get to what he's supposed to become. And Logan comes across as a leader who's been through everything, who knows quite a lot about his leadership space, media, finance, being ruthless, and all those kinds of ideas. He comes across as someone who is really looking for a successor, who is watching his children to see who succeeds. He constantly is giving them challenges and placing them against one another to see, of course, which of the children will be the better successor. And that's if you look at it through the positive lens. Of course, on the other side, he is just a father who lacks the skills that are necessary in raising his children. There's also the challenge that is faced by a man who has married a second wife. And so you could argue that maybe the closeness that he feels with his children is hindered by the fact that he has to deal with the love of another woman. So that's just another complexity that may be at play here. But I think on the whole, you do appreciate what he's trying to do, what he has done, what he's turned his son into, after all this stretching and after all these emotional beatings. Because if you watch the scene that I played out the audio, you will notice he almost has this wry smile on his face, almost as though it's a smile of pleasure, a smile of excitement, almost like an acknowledgement that yes, you are finally able to be a CEO. You finally have that killer instinct that I wanted you to have. It's been tough, but I've raised you right. I've taught you what you need to know, so now you're ready. So that's kind of what I took off from this season finale of Succession. I suppose it's season 2. I hope you guys will enjoy it as much as I did myself. So look forward to having more conversations. Of course, you can read some of what we've written before relating to both Succession and Billions. I wrote an article where I combined the ideas of both shows with those of the leadership traits of a person like Ratan Tata, former head of the Tata Group of India, a massive company by all proportions and in all respects. So this was really an episode, yes, about technology and innovation, but also about the intricacies of leadership, management, a little bit of finance, a little bit of succession, of course, a little bit about those challenges that you may face when you want to make sure that your company lives beyond you as a founder and as a strong leader. Once again, thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. We do hope that you can engage with us on LinkedIn as well as our Twitter handles. Thank you for listening and have a great month and rest of the month and the new year.
Intersection Magazine Podcast.